Today, I want to get straight into it and share with you 10 intentional living hacks that, not to put too fine a point on it, have changed my life. These are just some small ways to make sure you're focusing on the right things and not slipping back into autopilot mode. I'm pretty sure some of them you might not have heard of before too, so make sure to stick around until the end of the video. This first hack might sound obvious, but so few people actually do it, and it has honestly revolutionized my approach to things. My partner is really into tech and computers, and one of the things he taught me, which I'll never forget, is the saying in coding, DRY. DRY stands for don't repeat yourself, and I think it applies perfectly to life too. Taking a little bit of time to simplify your daily systems and organize your life to how you actually live it will save you time and energy and pay off dividends in the future. If you find yourself doing something repetitive, awkward, or time-consuming every day or week, then it's a sign to stop and ask yourself, how could I make this simpler for myself? Now, I know the temptation when you hear this kind of advice is to overhaul absolutely everything, but just pick the small problem that's right in front of you. Whether that's a drawer or just one small corner of your room that could be set up more sensibly, start there. For example, I realised I was fumbling around in one of the most awkward kitchen cupboards for my favourite mugs. After a while, as it was something I was doing every single day, I realised it would make far more sense in the long run to just spend 15 minutes rearranging things in a way that actually supported me. I've also done things like set up Alexa routines so my lights and heating come on in the morning exactly the way I want them to. These little improvements and automations might seem small, but they reduce decision fatigue and free up your time and mental energy for more of the things that actually matter. My second hack is getting clear on what I like to call the goal. And yes, caps are necessary. What I mean by this is that you should always take a moment to write down your number one priority for the day, first thing in the morning. For so many years, I either had no plan at all or a never-ending to-do list. There was literally no in between. As a result, I'd get so overwhelmed that I'd usually just end up procrastinating or faffing around on low-impact tasks that didn't really matter. And I just never seemed to get around to the big things that would actually move the needle most on the projects and goals in my life that I really cared about. Now I have on my to-do list what I like to call the goal, the one task that if nothing else gets done, needs to get done. And I make sure to get clear on this right at the start of the day, so there's no ifs, buts, or maybes about it. It's not to say that there's ever days when there aren't more than one thing to get done. But this definitely focuses more of my energy and attention on that one key task. It's a small habit, but it's meant I get so much more done of what's actually important. And you definitely notice that kind of incremental daily progress begin to compound over the weeks, months, and years. I'm calling this one See It to Believe It, which basically means having some kind of visualization practice. And I know visualization might be a bit out there for some, but it's actually backed by some pretty solid research. And it's honestly one of the most powerful tools I've added to my intentional living practice. The idea is simple. Spend a couple of minutes each day visualizing your dream life as though it's already real. Do not waste a second worrying about the how right now. Just feel the excitement within you as though it's already yours. And really immerse yourself in the details, like what you're wearing, how you're spending your time, who you're with, how it feels to be that version of you. Back in the 70s, sports psychologist Dr. Richard Swin studied how visualization impacted athletic performance. In one well-known experiment, basketball players who mentally rehearsed their shots, without even touching a ball, improved almost as much as those who physically practiced on the court. What this shows is that the brain doesn't really distinguish between real and imagined experience. When you regularly visualize something, you strengthen the neural pathways you need to make it real. It also shifts how you show up in the present. You start making choices, taking actions, and thinking like the version of you that already has what you want. Okay, we're coming firmly back down to earth now because my fourth hack is to never go to bed with a dirty sink. It's something that stuck with me ever since I heard it. I can't remember who said it now, but it's one of those little nuggets that really over-delivers given how incredibly simple it is. You've probably already heard the advice to do a quick sweep before bed, but there's something so satisfying about going to bed specifically with a clean sink and countertops. It just ends the day with closure and resets your space. So before you go to bed at night, make sure to do the washing up or pop the dishwasher on. And I know how tempting it is, but don't leave any stray plates or cups. I promise it's so much easier to get up in the morning and have a productive routine when your home feels calm and decluttered. It's worth remembering that your outer environment really is a reflection of your inner environment. So when your space is clear and organized, it helps your brain stay focused and ready to tackle the day ahead. James Clear talks about this in Atomic Habits, and Ali Abdaal covers it in Feel Good Productivity. Pairing tasks you dislike with things you love is also known as temptation bundling, and there's plenty of research to back this up. There's a lot I could dive into here, but the basic idea is to link something you don't enjoy doing with something you already enjoy, which makes it a million times easier to follow through and actually get things done. For example, I love listening to podcasts and watching videos from my favorite YouTube creators, but I don't always love going to the gym. So I started reserving those podcasts and videos specifically for my workouts. And eventually, my gym sessions became something I genuinely look forward to. Over time, I started to associate exercise, something I used to find really difficult to stick with something positive and enjoyable. And you can really do this with anything, so whether it's admin or cleaning, try pairing it with something you find enjoyable or comforting. It's one of the best ways to build healthy habits, because if something feels good, then it's way more likely to be sustainable in the long run too. Complete digital detoxes are great, but for a super simple tip, this next one is to give your phone a home. For so many of us, our phones just live on us, whether they're in our back pocket or sitting by our side while we work. The problem with having your phone as an extension of yourself like this is that it's so easy to fall into distraction and temptation. If we haven't turned off notifications, we're way more likely to get distracted when every buzz and ping lights up. And even if we have, it's still far too easy to just grab it and start doom scrolling or distracting ourselves with our favourite apps. When you physically separate yourself from your phone, like leaving it on the side near the door when you get home, it becomes a visual cue to leave it alone. I think this is a great hack for being more present with your loved ones, as well as just feeling generally calmer and less anxious by not always being on hyper alert. So make sure your phone has a home, whether that's a charging dock or just a spot that you designate where it lives whilst you do other things. There's a famous social experiment that took place in a hospital cafeteria back in 2010, where they wanted to encourage patients to make healthier choices. To increase sales of water, all they did was make the water bottles more accessible and visible than the fizzy drinks, by placing them at eye level in every refrigerator. That one simple change led to a noticeable spike in water sales, without anyone ever being explicitly told to drink more water or be healthier. Now, I know this to be true from personal experience because I worked in retail for years and I was always amazed by how much product placement really influences what people buy. You could practically predict the best sellers for the week based on how prominent they were in key locations around the store. It was something we used to call silent service, because just as important as actual traditional customer service was the thought that went into the layout of the store behind the scenes. And most customers probably never even realized they were being influenced in this way. Once you know this though, the great thing is that you can apply the exact same principle to your home. In other words, if you want to follow through on good habits, set up your environment so they're the easiest and most obvious option. If you want to eat healthier, put a fruit bowl where you'll see it. If you want to read more, keep a book on your bedside. Or you want to work out in the mornings, lay out your gym clothes the night before so they're right there waiting for you. It's such a small shift, but honestly, it makes a huge difference. This tip comes directly from one of my favourite productivity gurus, David Allen, in Getting Things Done, and that's if it takes less than 2 minutes, do it now. One thing I have a bad habit of doing is leaving half-finished cups of tea dotted around the house, and then I'll walk past them a million times and have the same thought. I really ought to take that to the dishwasher. Or another thing is that when I get something in the post, I'll just leave the empty packaging and it will sit there for days, when I could take it to the outside bin immediately. It would literally just require popping on my shoes and nipping out the door. The point is, little things left undone build up quickly. And that's when we start to drown in mess and feel overwhelmed by lots of tiny tasks that would have been so much easier if we just tackled them straight away. Intentional living is about making conscious choices that align with your values and priorities. Dealing with small tasks immediately prevents clutter, both mentally and physically, that can distract you from what truly matters. It helps keep your environment and mindset clear, so you can focus your energy intentionally rather than getting bogged down with little distractions and procrastination. And what I really love about this hack is that it's not just about the task itself. These small psychological wins help us feel like we're making progress and building momentum, which can in turn actually help us feel way more equipped to deal with the bigger items on our to-do list as well. My 9th tip is to focus on one thing at a time and reduce task switching. It's easy to think that we should always be doing more and that multitasking is a good thing, but counterintuitively, lots of studies show the opposite. In fact, when we continuously switch back and forth between different types of tasks, it can actually slow us down and make things take a lot longer. This happens because it increases our cognitive load, which basically just means that our brains have to work harder to keep switching focus. You probably already know how overwhelming it feels when you're trying to juggle a few different tasks at once, which is why I always say to make time for deep focus and important work by switching off notifications. That's also how you get into that wonderful flow state where you're fully immersed in the task at hand and working at your best. Otherwise, you'll be pulled in 1,000,001 different directions, and although you might feel busy, you'll realize that you actually haven't got very much done in that time. My last tip is probably one of the most impactful habits I've built from this whole list, and that's to develop a daily reflection practice. For a long time, I just went through my days on autopilot, reacting to whatever came up and never really pausing to intentionally slow down and process what was going on beneath the surface. Developing a daily reflection practice might sound a bit daunting, but it can take less than 5 minutes a day. That's something I think we can all easily spare, especially when you consider how powerful it is. I like to take a couple of minutes in the morning to set a clear intention for the day and jot down 3 things I'm grateful for, then another few minutes in the evening to check in with myself. I'll think about what went well, what didn't, and any lessons learnt, as well as anything I can let go of before I go to bed. It's super simple, but over time it really adds up. It helps you to become way more self-aware and spot patterns in your behaviour over time. Even just 5 minutes a day adds up to over 30 hours of self-reflection a year, which is probably more than most people ever do in a lifetime. I hope you found these tips today helpful. Some of the things I mentioned here, like prioritizing your to-do list or developing a daily reflection practice, are actually built directly into my Intentional Life OS. So if you want to steal my exact life management system, then do make sure to check that out. I'll leave a link to it in the description below, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.